if you are writing on a recipe site and you build a brand for yourself as someone who creates great content about recipes and give people great ideas for what to cook, you can actually build a following of people who come back to read you. That's not a Google thing, but it's an internet thing or a web thing. You have built a brand around who you are by establishing your expertise, your experience, your authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Sites like Facebook and others, they operate to give you what you want, not what you need, because they're just trying to drive consumption, which leads to more ad revenue. And to be honest, it's one of the great first applications of AI at scale is how to maximize that process of letting people fall into their own filter bubbles.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Speak. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer. It is my pleasure to have Eric Enge back with us for another episode. It's been a few years, actually 7, since he was on. I should have had him on earlier because he is, after all, my co-author on the Art of SEO, all 4 editions of the Art of SEO. Eric is the founder of Pilot Holding. He's founded, built, and sold 4 companies, including Stone Temple Consulting, which was acquired, when was that, 5 years ago?
2018.
Yeah, more than that. Wow, 8 years ago almost. An award-winning digital marketing agency. He is also the co-author of The Art of SEO, as I said, and co-author of the new book, Using Generative AI for SEO, which of course we'll be talking about. Eric, it's great to have you back.
Well, thanks, Stephan. It's great to be back. Looking forward to chatting with you today. There's just so much going on. It's kind of a fun time to be in the industry.
Well, it's a fun time to be alive. I mean, there's so much change in the world. If you like change, this is a great time to be alive. Yeah.
Well, if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, change is essential to success.
Yeah, there's a great little book that's all about change and how to acclimate to change and how to get your team to acclimate to change. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? Have you heard of that little book?
I've heard of it, but I haven't actually read it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's a cute book. It's been a long time since I saw that, but the premise here is that people don't like change. They like stability. They like certainty. And when you rock that certainty, then they feel very unsafe. It's like you took their safe space away. And that's a problem because we need to become more and more comfortable with being uncomfortable as this world changes at a faster and faster clip, which is, one thing that you're doing to help ameliorate the challenge for people of all this uncertainty is provide them a roadmap with this new book on using generative AI for SEO purposes, because it's essential to use AI across all industries, all different kinds of disciplines. If you don't, you're going to get left behind. You're going to not proceed at a fast enough clip in comparison to your competitors who are using AI. So let's talk a bit about what inspired you to come up with this book, and why now and why not in a year from now or a year prior to when it came out.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you, if you don't mind, just a little bit of the short backstory. Because, sold the company Stone Temple in 2018, had 3 years rather, in the contract to work with Proficient, the acquiring company, did that and exited in 2021. And, the idea more or less was to retire, or at least mostly retire. But unlike the phenomena you talked about where most people are afraid of change, I find change exciting, and I think of it as an opportunity. And that's probably because of that entrepreneurial mindset that I have, which is that, change defines opportunity, or creates opportunity, I should say. And so the retirement I was going to do became more of a partial retirement because there was a new disruptive thing happening. I can't pass up a good revolution. I mean, it excites me. It's the exact opposite effect. And I think that's true of anybody who's a successful entrepreneur. So I was just going to start with my first tip of the day, which wasn't directly related to your question, which is don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so much that you can create for yourself by being one of the people who first begins to understand what the change means. And this is where I get back to your original question. That's why I got involved in writing the book, right? Is to help people navigate this change and figure out how to practically apply AI, well, today.
Right. And so when you say embrace change rather than fear it, what's the practical way to do that? Because it's easy to say, it's hard to do if you are actually in fear or in flight, right? Or um, fight, flight, or fear, fight, flight, or freeze, I should say. So, what is a practical way for somebody to become more amenable and actually excited about change?
So, yeah, it's a great question, because if that fear is stopping you from moving forward, you need to, well, find ways to start small, right? Just learn a little bit about it, demystify it. Lots of people will be writing about things that relate to the change, of course, and find the people who you know and trust and who are genuine experts in the area. Learn from them and just take it a day at a time and learn one thing and then learn the next thing and then stack up an understanding of where to go with it and what it means to you. If you try to absorb the whole thing all at once, then you're going to fall back into your fear and you're going to get afraid of it. So you're much better off if you just take those small steps and make little bits of progress, rather than trying to figure out everything all at once.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great tip, and reminds me of a book that I really think highly of, and I've had the author on this show. It's BJ Fogg, and his book is called Tiny Habits, which is all about how to establish habits by going and breaking them down into really small components, and then getting that feeling of success, what he calls shine, getting that shine feeling going, where you want to stack those tiny habits on top of each other, and then the next thing you know, you're actually doing the thing that you thought you would never do, right? The thing you were procrastinating.
Right. I mean, that's a really great way to put it. This idea of taking those small steps and building and stacking successes.
Yeah.
And it just does so much for your confidence, helps you get past the fear. You start getting benefits from the change, and then things accelerate for you. And it's a great way to be about it.
Yeah. So check out that episode, listener, with BJ Fogg if you're interested in learning more about habit stacking and creating tiny habits. So I'm curious. So if let's say that we give our listener their first tiny habit or tiny step to take to ameliorate to this new AI era, what would it be? And I'll just give you an example to warm you up. So let's say that somebody is not using the ChatGPT app, or if they are using it, they're not actually talking to it and getting it to talk back to them. That's a very easy, simple thing. It takes just a couple minutes to install the app, and then you hit that circle icon to start a voice chat session, and you can start having conversations while you're driving, while you're walking to the park or whatever, and that just makes it more attainable, more friendly, and you're doing something that a lot of people aren't even doing yet, and it's so basic.
Yeah, I mean, I love the example of using it with the voice extension while you're walking, because you could just ask questions about things you're seeing around you, right? And get meaningful text-based responses where you don't have to look at things or click on any links, right? And get some answers to questions. And that's a really nice way to use it in a basic way, just to become personally familiar with it. So I'm going to give you a similar thing from a business perspective, which is, let's say that you just got a large PDF file from someone, or a large web page that somebody sent you that you needed to like go analyze and read. Just ask ChatGPT or your favorite app and ask it to summarize it for you. Tell me the 5 most important things in this piece of content. And it happens to be one of the things that the large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and others does really well.
Yeah.
Right. The error rate is quite low. So you usually get an excellent summary of the article. And so that's not like the biggest win you could potentially get out of all this, but it's real. You know, you could take something that was going to be 30 minutes of reading and distill it down to, 5 to 10. And that's a big win.
Yeah. I mean, we're just awash with so much content, especially video content, and that is time consuming. So if somebody just gets used to, for example, using Notebook LM from Google, or they'll use maybe a specialized app for YouTube videos like Recall, which is getrecall.ai, then the videos will get summarized. And with Notebook LM, for example, that actually can create a podcast, kind of a mock podcast between two fictional AI characters who are riffing back and forth, explaining the concept in, let's say, that PDF that you upload, or that YouTube video that you gave it, or a whole series of YouTube videos. And then you'll be able to just listen to that on your way to work, or while working out, or taking a walk. And that is going to lower the amount of time and effort required to learn new stuff and keep up with your industry or with the technology and so forth.
So I'll give you another one, which is, let's say you want to make a custom birthday card for someone, and you have a picture of them. Maybe you're in your family, right? And you have a picture of them celebrating something with the family, and it's just a great picture of everybody together. But you also happen to know that they're really into anime. So you can upload the picture and say, hey, can you convert all these people into anime figures? And it will do it for you and give it back to you.
Yeah, like in the style of Studio Ghibli, which was really not very well received by the Studio Ghibli folks who care about protecting their copyrights. But whatever, I guess ChatGPT or OpenAI didn't really care about that. So like surprisingly good too. It's really, really good. It looks like it's coming out of Studio Ghibli if you give it that prompt to emulate Studio Ghibli.
It does, and I actually. I learned about this idea, I don't know, 6-9 months ago or something from a friend's daughter-in-law who made a series for her husband, which was actually, it was like a cartoon with about 12 converted pictures, or actually converted one picture, and then she told it to now use the same figure, but put it in this situation. So only one picture was provided, and then the rest of the frames in the 12-frame story that she was telling were completely created by ChatGPT. But it was very, very well done, and very neat little kind of additional gift for his birthday.
That's cool. Well, you can put that in a business context and say, well, I want to make a mock commercial. I want it to be video. I want to have the person, let's say the spokesperson or the founder or whatever, holding the product in their hand and sitting or standing on a mountaintop. And you can prompt that into the tool, whether you're using ChatGPT. I found that Gemini Nano Banana works really well for replacing, let's say, a background, or putting something in the foreground, or putting something in their hand or whatever. It seems to work better, keeping the integrity of the main character than ChatGPT does. But, it's at the moment that might be true, but in 6 weeks or a few weeks, whenever this episode airs, that might be different. So things change very rapidly in the AI space. But I'm a fan of Nano Banana, which is a pretty silly name. That was the internal name within Google, and I guess it's stuck.
One of the neat things about this idea too, about playing with pictures this way, is it allows you to do some things that isn't in the pressure of a business environment, right? So it's a personal environment. If it doesn't go exactly right, you can just throw it away, you know what I mean, and try again or give up on the idea, whatever. There's no pressure. And that's kind of a nice way to put yourself in a situation where fear doesn't block you from trying to do something.
Yeah, like be an experimentalist, try stuff out. And with the video creation, so you create a image, maybe a start image and an end image, and then you would animate that using a different tool like Hilo or what's another one that you can use for turning it into video? I forget.
I don't know off the top of my head here.
Anyway, so yeah, Hilo is one example, but it's not spelled like it sounds. So we'll put that in the chat. I mean, in the episode transcript, show notes page, so people will be able to get to it. So if you wanted to kind of give some of your best tips from your book, what would be some of the things that they could do to improve their SEO using AI-based tools and prompts?
So one of the popular areas people like to think about using Gen AI for is, content creation. And here we are. We're almost 3 years in since ChatGPT came out, and it's still not really ready to just have it, give it an idea, ask it to go write an article. It writes the article and you publish it. That's still not a good concept. And one of the really bad things that happened, especially very early on, was that people were saying, I can lay off all my writers, or I have the power of 1,000 writers at my fingertips. And the answer is no, you don't. So there are benefits. I'll get to that. But the first thing you need to do is set your sights on what's the right type of gain to think about, right? And it's really important to set those objectives properly. So if you're thinking that you're going to cut your writing cost in half and triple your throughput, then you're probably going to run into problems. And I know many people who have tried that, and it's not worked out well for them. So I really want to urge you to not think about it that way. And one of the first big points that I make in the book is think 25, 30% gains, right? And now I'm staying specific to a content creation perspective. There's other things where the gains are larger, but and it's like that's not as exciting as imagining that you're going to make your throughput 4x and you're going to get rich. Because the problem is if you really could do 4x, then 100,000 people would already be doing it, and it would be the new norm. So you don't get any edge out of that anyway. But if you think about this 25, 30% improvement in cost and throughput and the like as a goal, you start thinking about how you might approach it differently. And so so this is a core concept that I really want people to get their head around. And there's some things that all the Gen AI tools do reasonably well. They can suggest article topics. They can create outlines for an article. It can research facts and statistics and trends and potentially even create short drafts that you can have somebody else take and run with from there. But the first part is getting that scope of objective right, and then you can begin engaging at the next level.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, there are certain use cases where it actually is surprisingly good, like infographic creation. If you give it the right kind of brief or prompt, then you'll get a great infographic back. Might need some tweaks, but this is part of the process. And if you use it for fact checking and spell checking and
Well, summarization that we already mentioned too, right? I mean, its success rate at summarization is extremely high. I mean, there's a case where you get a much higher level of gain, but obviously, really, my 25-30% metric is if you're thinking about using it to improve content creation, just text authoritative content creation.
yeah. And one of the techniques that are being espoused these days for optimizing for the LLMs is to have like a TLDR, too long didn't read summary at the beginning of the article or key highlights.
And that's a summarization task.
Yeah, so that would be great for the AI to do.
Yes, it would. So the psychology, I'm not sure psychology is the right word here, but the approach that I suggest people have in mind is think about using AI as a brainstorming partner for your content creation people.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is powerful in a lot of different ways. Some of the things it will do way more efficiently than your content creator. Your hopefully your subject matter expert is involved at some point in this process as well, which is generate outlines. In fact, the way I think about that is because there's definitely a certain amount of randomness in the LLMs, have it generate 3 outlines for you, and then parse through them and toss out the stuff that you don't want, and pull them, and create a one integrated outline, which is the one that you run with.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to make sure that your article is more comprehensive and thorough. Because even if your subject matter expert is doing the writing for you, and they're going to bring this wealth of knowledge with them, and they could probably generate a great outline, they're still going to forget a couple of things. They're human, right? But having them leverage the AI increases the probability that the AI will actually fill the gaps that they miss.
Yeah. So, what about tying in to keyword research using AI, using maybe Hrefs and MCP servers and that? What's your advice around that?
So, I mean, I think it's a great tool for keyword research from a couple of different dimensions, and one of which is using it without tying it into Ahrefs or anything else,
Mm-hmm.
and because it steps back from the context of search volume, which those of us in the SEO world have been married to search volume for a long period of time. But search volume is a bit of a trap. It's a trap because it leads you away from creating content that you probably should create. And I'm of the school of people who believe that Google is using a process to assess your topical authority based on the density of topics that you have related to a particular topic area. So it's a little bit complex what I'm going to explain here, so bear with me a moment. So if the listeners aren't familiar with embeddings, embedding vectors are a thing that are used to understand the meaning of a piece of content. The meaning of a piece of content could be what the LLMs and the search engines call a token, which is approximately the size of a word. It can actually be part of a word or a couple words, but it's a smallish piece of content. And then there's passages, which might be a single concept, and then there's whole web pages. and all of these things can be assigned these vectors, which define what they're about. And what they're really good at is helping determine the relevance of a piece of content. And so um, the reason why I went through that is the way I believe that search engines are understanding topical authority, or at least one of the ways, is by the quantity of topics that you have that are highly relevant to a topic area. And that's search volume independent. Yes, you need to have the major pieces, but there's probably content you should be writing that shows zero search volume in your tools.
So what would be an example of that?
So, oh gosh, you're going to make me think through an example here on the fly. I'll wing it here. Let's say you're writing about, I don't know, auto warranties, just to pick a topic area. And, you know, what, what do auto warranties do is a very basic sort of head term type of concept around auto warranties. But something that would be a very particular term might be something like, does a particular auto warranty vendor cover this specific situation, which might be that your radiator went out on you while you were driving, from point A to point B, and what does that coverage look like? That's a very specific question that you probably wouldn't put in your general article about auto warranties or even about the individual vendor, right? So most people wouldn't try to cover that topic, and maybe they should. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's its own web page. It might be within a given page. But when terms get very specific, most people stop and they don't cover it. And that's why they have this surface level coverage of a topic, which, unfortunately, what they don't understand is that 35% or more of the world's search volume is in these very, very specific questions. So if you don't answer them, you're ignoring 35% of your potential audience. And you don't want to do that, And so the reason why this is important is it helps Google identify topical authority. And topical authority is one of the things they look for. The other major thing that does that and still matters to that is links. But from the content perspective, they want to see that you have deep coverage of a topic. So no matter what question the user has, they'll be able to get an answer from you.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're not going deep into all the subtopics, then it looks like thin content. It looks like you're not an expert in that topic space, and you're not going to do as well in Google or in the LLMs such as ChatGPT.
You don't have depth of coverage, and that's what it's all about.
So some people are saying that link building is dead, and I think the opposite is true. But I'm curious what your take is. I probably
you can already see the take based on my shake.
Well, if you're watching the video, then you see he's shaking his head no.
Yeah, right. Well, you can just type SMH next to me, but yeah, no. So it's definitely not. And the LLMs actually care about links and citations, and the thing that they're trying to address with that is the same as we just talked about. It's topical authority.
Yeah.
So if you have a site which itself is authoritative, and they give you a citation, by which I mean not a link, but they mention you by name, your company or you personally, or they actually implement a link, then that is something that they see and they look at. and put weight on, as does Google. So it still matters. It's still an important signal. The thing that I find most people do wrong here is they get focused on getting large numbers of links. And volume does matter to a degree, but Google, gosh, this is my own working estimate. I think they probably ignore 2/3 or more of all links
Why do you say that?
because they just, you know, uh, too low relevance, no authority in the linking site. I mean, and maybe my estimate is high, but they ignore a lot of links. There's no doubt about that, and they do that because they don't really help them better identify the topical authorities on things. So when you get to what they're trying to do is identify topical authority, right? Does your guest post in somebody's website that has none of your target audience or very little of your target audience really help establish topical authority? And the answer is no, of course not.
Yeah. And so taking into account things like the estimated amount of traffic coming in from organic search to that website that's linking to you, that should be considered. The number of keywords that that site ranks for should be considered. And if these numbers are low, then the site is probably not designed for visitors. It's designed for webmasters who have a budget to spend on links.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's definitely accurate. But I would even take it a little further is even if they have a fair amount of traffic, but none of it is relevant or showing any interest in what your site is about, then maybe that doesn't count either, even though it is somewhat popular. If they've never written about the topic before, never published anything about the topic before, okay, why'd they start now?
Yeah.
You know,
So, what would be more important in your estimation for the LLMs to rank, or not rank, but actually just be cited and referenced in an LLM response or in the Google search results? Is it more important to have an unlinked mention with your brand, or is it more important to have a non-relevant anchor text but a text link? Let's say maybe it says click here or read more or something like that from a site. Which do you think is more important for the LLMs for getting visibility and for Google visibility?
so an unlinked mention and a brand mention.
An unlinked mention that is the brand versus a link that is contextually not relevant because it's just a click here link or read more or check this out.
I would take the unlinked mention that's to the brand,
Yeah.
reference to the brand on the thing that has some relevance. So some of this, we can't, of course, know what the specifics of how these things are implemented at either the LLMs or Google. But what we can do is we can just do our own reasoning, and the reasoning would be to think about what actually speaks more to me as a consumer, right, to somebody's topical authority,
Mm-hmm.
right, and it's a good test to try to apply to something. If it's as I said, if it's a site that has no traffic relevant to your business, then it's probably not going to help with topical authority because nobody on that site cares.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, and how that ties in here with building that topical authority. And maybe start by explaining what EEAT is, why it's important to Google, and thus why it's important to SEOs.
Sure. So, yeah, this is a great topic because uh, um, I have a controversial opinion here, so we'll
Oh,
have some
great.
fun.
Bring it on.
So anyway, the letters EEAT. So we have experience. Google cares about or recommends that. I'm going to word that differently. Google recommends that authors have experience in what they're writing about, and of course that seems like it makes a lot of sense. And experience differs from expertise, the other E, because you can have expertise about something, but not actually have experience. So they kind of want you to have both, or suggesting that your author has both. And then authoritativeness. So that really relates to the level of command that you are demonstrating around the topic, and in particular, in the information that you're publishing. And that's a concept that I think as consumers we can understand. We know who we think are the authorities on things. And then trustworthiness speaks to your motives. You could have the EE and A and still be, let's see, how am I going to phrase this? Well, a manipulative jerk who just wants to take money from people and deliver nothing in return. So you're not trustworthy then, right? And so that matters a great deal. And let's think about these things. So I'm going to step back from Google for a moment. Um, uh, from a consumer perspective, we tend to inherently look for these things. We don't give them those labels. Like when we go to somebody's site, is this the right place to buy this product? You know, I'm on LL Bean. Are they good at selling these kinds of clothes? Or and you know, do they have a good return policy? And these are all things that we think about. There's sort of this holistic sense we have about whether we trust something and we are comfortable buying something from someone, or consuming their information and believing it to be true. So probably most people would agree that Mayo Clinic is a good source for health information, for example, or Cleveland Clinic for that matter. So, all right. So from a consumer perspective, this all makes sense. Now, um, from a Google perspective, I believe they do little to measure this directly. And if you look at and comb through the Google document warehouse um, leak that occurred in 2024, if I'm remembering my year right here, you know, we got access to a major chunk of the APIs from Google. Um, and so we could see a lot of the parameters they used. They have nothing in the entire API leak for experience, expertise, and trustworthiness. There are no parameters in there that are stored that try to measure those things. They do have author, and it is something they're tracking at some level. And if you take the online discussions of John Mueller at face value, and I'm willing to do that in this context, he says that they use author primarily for your money or your life sites, which, for those who don't know what that means, essentially it means sites related to your personal finance or health, and perhaps other topics which are considered life critical topics. So they do actually track the authority of specific authors and how much they value those authors in that context. But they say that for other sites, call it a recipe site or something, that they don't pay attention to that. But there's a parenthetical to that, which is if you are writing on a recipe site, and you build a brand for yourself as someone who creates great content about recipes and give people great ideas for what to cook, you can actually build a following of people who come back to read you. That's not a Google thing, but it's an internet thing or a web thing, right? You have built a brand around who you are by establishing your expertise, your experience, your authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So I think a large part of Google's EEAT push was about advising people how to do a better job of attracting loyal customers.
Yeah, how to be a better brand. And I love this definition of branding, which is it's a promise delivered. A brand is a promise delivered. So if you can deliver on your promise, then you will have a brand that people will specifically ask for. And that's what you need to survive and thrive in this AI era, because otherwise you're just a commodity like every other website that has your type of content. It's when I prompt and say, hey, make sure that you include ChatGPT these sorts of examples of brands or products or services or companies, then ChatGPT is going to do your bidding. And without that, who knows?
You got it. Yeah, so I actually did a presentation at SMX back in June, which was about EEAT, and one of the first things I told the audience is, well, Google really doesn't use it, or most of it, and it's an indirect thing. The fact that it's indirect doesn't matter. It's still very powerful, like you just said. The promise delivered. It's like that EEAT is all about if you are a person delivering that promise, because you have the experience, the expertise, the authority, and the trust.
Yeah. So the reason why EEAT is talked about so much is because it's part of the Google Quality Rater guidelines that Google's been paying contractors for many years to quality rate various websites, and then it's been used as pre-training data to help the machine learning algorithms figure out what sites are quality and which ones are not.
Yes, and there is that aspect of it. Of course, even with the large workforce that they have doing of search quality raters that they have, they're touching a fragment of the web.
So, what would be something that really irks you that Google has misrepresented to Google representatives have misrepresented to us as the SEO community?
Oh my gosh. What's something that really irks me? Well, so I'm gonna start with sort of what the pattern is. Well, actually, here I got a simpler answer. Um, you know, there's a truth in what they're saying here, but they're omitting the very basic reality, which is that they constantly talk about just create great content and we'll take care of you, you'll be fine, and all that. So, um, and so, and I actually believe that that's where you start, but um, you do have to be aware of certain things about how SEO works to get the best results. And you do have to be aware that Google is in it to make money, and that ongoing um, strategies that they implement to increase clicks on ads, and keep more of the attention on their site are reality because it's good for their business and their shareholders. And so um, it'd be kind of nice if maybe they need to dress it up a little bit, but if they could just say that, we got to do this. This is what we're here for. But here's how you prosper in our ecosystem. So if we kind of just could be a little bit more frank about all that, I think that would be a really, really good thing.
Mm. Tell you what irks me is that they've been lying to us for years about clickstream data not being used in the rankings algorithm. And then when the DOJ uh, required them to tell the truth and disclose documents, then of course it was the opposite of what they claimed for years. They've been using.
Well, I mean, the funny thing about that is Pandu Nayak was the Google VP. That a lot of the testimony was very interesting to read. And if you are interested in understanding SEO at depth, reading his testimony is very interesting reading. But they were doing things with clicks at a fundamental level, uh, like more than 2 decades ago, maybe even 25 years ago. And the whole reason Chrome was launched as a browser was to collect more click data. So think about where they were prior to Chrome being launched. They had a popular search engine, and they could see what people would do in the search engine, and based on click behavior, they could re-rank the results. And it's a simple concept. You have for a particular search query, you might expect, let's say, 10% click through on position 1 and 5 on position 2 and 3 on position 3 or something like that. But the result in position 1 is only getting 7%, and the one in position 2 is getting 7%. Well, Google might swap them, and they do. So I agree. That's also very irksome that they cover that up so well. But then you get into what they did with Chrome. And this is really interesting for people to understand. And that is that with Chrome, they can tell how much type-in traffic you get. They can tell how much people click on links in emails over to your website. They can track from any other website that links get clicked. And they don't need Google Analytics or anything on that, like that on it. They have Chrome, right? The world's #1 browser by far. And they can measure this user behavior. So the way they assess your brand, and this is a really important point, you can't let your business be an SEO only business. If you're not getting traffic from other sources, then they know that you're not really a topical authority, right? So you may have to address YouTube. You may have to address TikTok. You may have to, build an email list, an SMS list, and on and on and on. Things that you might want to do, various social media sites too, so that you have a breadth of exposure across the web. Becomes really important, and that's just the way the game works.
Yeah. Are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not active on it actually. I've dabbled, but that's about it. How about you?
Yeah, I have a. It's funny. I refuse to put it on my phone, so I don't want CCP spyware installed on my phone. But my team manages my account for me, and they'll upload videos and so forth. So yes, I do have a channel. I mean, I don't make my team install it; they have it installed anyways. People who don't want to install it, they don't have to work on this part of the part of the work. It's like I'm not. I don't want people to install spyware on their computer to maintain a job or whatever. So, or on their phone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not right. Right. So, but I mean, I work with a couple of companies that are active on TikTok and many other channels. But the more our world is evolving here, and Gen AI is just the next latest element of that, the more fractured the channels are going to become, and the more important it is going to be to have your business be multi-channel. It becomes really, really important to understand that. And and by the way, all along the way, this will continue to feed your authority from a Google perspective, and probably from the LLM perspectives as well, um, because no matter how much importance there is that naturally so that it is on making money at those companies, right? Um, the reality is they still want to surface the content to their users. Well, I have to hedge this answer a little bit. Traditionally, I would have said that help the users most, but it's becoming increasingly that the users want the most, which isn't necessarily
Yeah.
what helps them the most. Um, so, but in order to
Yeah.
build their
Seems like social media, interest media, as Gary Vaynerchuk likes to call it, is designed to be highly addictive and put us into a dopamine deficit. And thus we lose motivation and drive to do the really important, hard things in life, which is unfortunate.
yeah, well, and very simple formula for success to oversimplify it is do the hard things that other people won't, and then you become in demand, right? So as long as you choose the right hard things to do, but that's where, and also satisfaction. You know, if I sit at my computer playing free cell all day long, then I might get little dopamine hits from winning a game, but
So what's a hard thing that you do that you get a lot of satisfaction out of?
well, I'm constantly challenging myself to learn and, I'll say master new things. Um, I'm a lifelong learner, and I don't. I could be retired now if I wanted to, but I don't because I love the challenge and solving the problem, and you get to that state where it's like, I just don't understand how does this work, and it's like, and it's driving you a little bit nuts. But then when you persist and you stay with it and you figure it out, you know, and maybe you learn it in a YouTube video somewhere from someone else. It doesn't matter how you solved it. And then it's like, yes. So
Well, you have a hobby, which I happen to know about. I don't know if you've been public about it, but you're kind of a master craftsman at making furniture.
yes, I do make furniture primarily for my children actually, but I've made dining room tables for all three of them, a variety of end tables and things, and now I'm in advanced stages of a display cabinet, which is 6 feet high, 4 feet wide, drawers on the bottom, glass doors, and adjustable shelves throughout the cabinet. And um, Starting that, I tell you, one of the things I decided I wanted to do in retirement is I decided I want to do woodworking, but I didn't have furniture in my mind when I said it because I've done a lot of more like fixing things in houses or installing picture windows or new doors or stuff like that. So I was very familiar with tools and stuff. But my wife uh, um, pointed me at making furniture, and it's like uh, talk about doing one of the hard things. It was like, what the heck how the heck do I do that? I had like no idea, and
Well, that's part of that being a lifelong learner, right? Everything is figure outable, as Marie Forleo likes to say. So, yeah, good for you. It helps keep you sharp, and helps keep you active. It's really important. Yeah, so good for you for having a productive hobby.
well, the really nice thing about it too is I spent so many years uh, spending a very substantial part of nearly every day in front of a computer screen, just like this one, making a living and trying, being creative in different ways and trying to help people and these sorts of things, and it was rewarding and all that, but it was sort of all that same thing in one way or another. Whereas this is like use your hands to create something. And I don't count typing on the keyboard as using my hands to create something. I mean, really like manipulate things with your hands and make something. And you know what? This is a really great, life tip by itself. Find a way to give yourself balance, right? And to be honest, for at least a couple of decades there, I did a pretty poor job of that. I had some little things, but I didn't do enough of it.
Yeah, because it's increasingly more likely that people, especially young people, will get kind of sucked into a virtual world and have no other outlets for physical activity and for manipulating objects in the real world and being social in a real world environment, which, as AI advances and deep fakes become undetectable, it's going to be hard to know what's real and what's fake in this new era.
Well, and the culture or the way that sites like Facebook and others operate, they operate to give you what you want, not what you need, because they're just trying to drive consumption, which leads to more ad revenue. And to be honest, it's one of the uh, um, great first applications of AI at scale is how to um, maximize that process of letting people fall into their own filter bubbles. And um, we're not supposed to end on a bad thing, are we? So, so but it's scary what could happen there, and we have to hope that. And I think a lot of people will care enough about understanding what's really going on that they will have the ability to get around this and will still be able to live rich, constructive lives. But I fear, a significant number of people will just fall into it and get trapped into, believing whatever they're told, basically.
Yeah, well, so the inspiring message is to be the change you want to see in the world, right? So, first of all, become aware that this is a problem. Maybe watch the movie The Social Dilemma or something like that. And then do something, no matter how small it is, to make the world a better place in this regard.
Yes, indeed. And that is a great thing to do. Always find a way to help people.
Awesome. Well, thank you for helping people through sharing your wisdom in this episode. If our listener or viewer wants to maybe learn more from you, get your books, I don't know if you do consulting still or not, but how do they work with you or learn from you?
So yeah, I do still do some consulting. You can reach me via LinkedIn, where Eric Enge on LinkedIn. I do still occasionally check my Twitter account. At Stone Temple is that handle. And so those are probably the two easiest ways. You can also go to pilotholding.com and there's a contact form there too.
Awesome. And then your book, they can find that on Amazon, the new one, using generative AI for SEO.
Yes, indeed. So it's been out there
Yeah.
since.
And of course, our book together, The Art of SEO, fourth edition. They can also get
Yes,
that on
indeed.
Amazon.
I have it's over there. I won't go grab it, but no.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eric, and thank you, listener. Now go do something small that makes the world a better place. We'll catch you on the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.